After 10 years, the state of Yandere Simulator is absolutely inexcusable. As many people know, Yandere Dev has been an interesting entity on the internet.
Here, honey, come down. Come down and give your lover a kiss. That's a good girl.
10 years ago, he came up with the idea for Yandere Simulator, a game where you play as a high school girl who has a crush on a guy and has to eliminate 10 rivals in her pursuit of him. She has to go around the school, try to get close to these girls who have a crush on him, and annihilate them before they win his heart. It sort of doubles as a sandbox type of high school simulator, but the concept of rivals is tied into the game's win condition. You cannot beat the game unless you get rid of all 10. As such, the game cannot be complete until the 10 rivals are added, and after 10 years, this game has won. To understand just how long this game has been in development, anyone who was 9 years old when the game first started has now graduated high school. After 10 years, the key features of the game that were expected to be developed just aren't there, which is laughable but also abhorrent because he was taking a lot of people's Patreon money to develop this game. He may not have been able to contribute much in the way of rivals and efficient code, but he certainly did contribute his fair share of deranged messages to fans that make Satan look like a hero.
Oh! Ew! What the?
Though Yandere Simulator has become one of the leading faces of failed games, it actually had an incredibly successful start that Yandere Dev, or Alex, managed to throw away. Now, the story of this may not have been one that he wanted. It's not a story of some indie game developer hitting it big and becoming an inspiration to others. Instead, his actions can be a case study in how to disappoint. And there are so many valuable lessons one can take away from analyzing the situation. And today, we're going to look at all the ways Yandere Dev failed, and how all of this shows the importance of personal accountability, discipline, setting reasonable expectations, and of course, not being egotistical, creepy, or deplorable to others. With the creepiness, I mean, his live streams alone are enough to make anyone lose sleep.
That the stream is offline and no one can see me. It's time to do what I always do this time of night.
Yandere Dev is less suited to be a game developer and would probably be better off being a sleep paralysis demon that just sort of lurks at the edge of your bed and makes weird noises at random intervals. And in the process of making this video, I feared for my sleep, for what I was seeing was keeping me up at night. But luckily, Manta Sleep, today's beloved sponsor, swooped in and saved the day. Manta Sleep makes tons of products that aim to improve and optimize your quality of sleep, so you have the energy to create your best life. And in my experience, they've succeeded. See, they sent me one of their sleep masks, and it has now become one of my sacred, prized possessions. I've started using it when I go to bed every night, and I find that it helps me sleep way better. See, it has these little eye cups that block out light. The mask is incredibly adjustable, and you can take the eye cups off, move them around, and change the angle if you need to. You can also resize the fit of the mask using the simple strap. So, even if you have a comically tiny or comically large mega mind head, this thing will still work for you. Even when I was rolling around in the night and I started sleeping in like the Peter Griffin death pose, this thing still remained comfortable and didn't move. The mask has this premium quality feel to it, it's silky smooth, it's super comfortable. All in all, I really love this sleep mask and it's helped me get some quality sleep at times when I really needed it. So if you're interested in any of this, you can check out Manta Sleep here using my link in the description and use code Savantics for 10% off your order. Thank you, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring this video. Now it's time to get back to the tragic subject of Yandere Dev and Yandere Simulator. So let's begin examining this disaster by looking at the start of this game's success and how he was already planting the seeds of disappointment. The state of Yandere Simulator's beginning is one that any indie developer practically begs for. He started development in March of 2014, and just over a year later, in the summer of 2015, it was gaining serious traction with YouTubers, with people such as Markiplier and PewDiePie playing it. People all over the platform were giving this game millions and millions of views. And this was also at a time where indie games were growing more and more successful because of their coverage on YouTube. However, unlike these games, it became clear that Yandere Dev did not know how to manage this level of success or turn it into something more. He made a lot of mistakes that successful game developers just generally don't do. One thing he did was he wanted to tell everybody exactly where he was at with developing the game. And he provided frequent updates across social media for where the game was and what he was working on at any given moment. While this certainly started off as a good thing, this very clearly became a problem when time passed and he failed to actually follow through on what he said he was going to do. Let's take a look at the current Yandere Simulator website. It's public right now, and it appears that the About tab hasn't been updated since probably before August of 2020. I mean, this is truly a sight to behold. The About tab on the website is an FAQ. One of the questions is, when's the game's release date? And here he said that when he finished implementing Osana, the first rival, he would hold a crowdfunding campaign, and then based on the results of this campaign, that would determine the game's release date. Now, it's 2024, Osana has been released, and there was no crowdfunding campaign. While he's had donations from fans who are expecting certain things to come from the game, he has not released an official campaign. In the answer, he says what he would do if he did not reach his crowdfunding goal, and by having no campaign, that automatically is going to mean he did not reach his crowdfunding goal. So, let's see what date he gave. If the crowdfunding campaign cannot meet its bare minimum goal, Yandere Simulator will have to be completed without professional assistance. I will be very limited in what I can do, so the production values will be low, and every rival will feel like a clone of Osana. The final game will feel nearly identical to the current debug sandbox, and it will most likely be released sometime in early 2021. You might have overshot that by a bit, considering it's 2024 and there's one rival out of 10 for the game to be considered complete. And he's listed other dates too based on how the crowdfunding would have gone. And there's nothing listed here that's any later than the year 2022. Now, I know I've said that there's only one rival, and that was for simplicity's sake, but actually the matter is kind of complicated. For nearly the entire time the game has been in development, Yandere Dev has been known to get distracted with side features of the game, constantly adding small things to it that have no real impact on the actual core gameplay itself. But by far, the most interesting, convoluted distraction of his was 1980s mode, where he basically made a separate game mode in Yandere Simulator that has 10 rivals, but it's not part of the main story. No one really was waiting for this mode to come out. Like, this is not what was promised for years. People have wanted the main story to get rivals, and he just randomly got distracted with like a side game that he just stuck in the main game instead of working on the main thing people wanted. He has gone so far off track with the original vision of the game and has basically taken every side quest he could think of. People have a right to be frustrated, and it's gotten to the point where people have felt like he's dragging things on longer because he wants more money. And honestly, I do think that the reason this game has gone on as long as it has is because of the concern for relevancy more than it is for the concern of money. He's even stated himself that it's important for Yandere Simulator to receive constant ongoing development or else it risks losing relevancy.
The game is only alive for as long as people are interested in it. If people lose interest in the game, it's dead. If I release frequent updates, people will remain interested in the game.
His concern for how relevant the game is, and by extent himself, is a huge factor for why this game is still not finished. See, the funny thing about Yandere Dev is that I think he likes playing Dev Simulator more than he actually likes working on the game. You could point to all sorts of instances as the single point of no return that doomed this game, but I think the most catastrophic thing he did for the future of this game was when right at the start he decided to put himself, the developer, at the front and center of the game's marketing. He was the developer, but he made himself inseparable from the game's image by putting himself everywhere all over his YouTube channel and being so overly open online. He set both himself and his game up for this disastrous cycle, where his reputation had the ability to tank his game, and his poor performance on the game could tank his reputation. If he's an off-putting individual, people don't want to play the game, and if he keeps delaying development while taking people's money, then people start seeing him as more of an off-putting individual. I think it's time to talk about how poorly he managed his online presence. So first of all, it's integral to understand that dislikes sent towards Yandere Dev did not just come from pure frustration that he was being too slow. People weren't mad at him just because he wasn't coding fast enough. It was because various instances of him being creepy came to light. He's 35 and was in his mid-20s when he started working on the game, and he has implemented some incredibly questionable features in his game that just aren't right. The game stars high school students, and he has spent a very strange amount of time on various parts of these girls' outfits.
This seems weird. Is this necessary to the game? Is this pertinent information from my everyday life?
and he's been exposed for talking to his fans in a way that no one should ever do. It is a large piece of the story for why he has acquired so much criticism and hate. And then when you combine all of this into the fact that it became increasingly clear he wasn't working on the game as much as he was telling people, it's pretty easy to see why his reputation declined so heavily. And he has very consistently been shown to not know how to take criticism. It got to the point where his Discord server became a meme. People were doing genuine get banned from Yandere Simulator Discord speedruns. But his inability to take criticism is not the biggest sin of communication he's committed. The biggest problem with how he's communicated on the internet is how he's talked to his own audience and group of supporters. There are multiple examples over the history of Yandere Dev's YouTube channel and blog in which he talks about the game like he is being held captive as a developer, like he is being locked up somewhere, forced to make this game. Years ago, he posted 2 videos, What's Taking So Long Part 1 and Part 2. And here he talks about the problems that he believes are impacting his productivity. And this whole video is absolutely ridiculous. In it, he starts to really set the tone that Yandere Simulator has completely consumed his life. He voices how he feels obligated to spend 12 hours a day on the game to make sure it's being developed at a rate where people won't lose interest in it.
This is why I work on Yandere Simulator 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and don't take any vacations. I'm worried about people losing interest in the game. I'm worried about losing my subscribers. I'm worried about losing my patrons. I'm worried about being called lazy. I'm worried about getting a reputation as a bad game developer. I'm worried that everything I've worked for will collapse, and all of the work I've put into the game will be for nothing.
Now, no one forced him to do this. This is the own expectation he placed on himself. He shows a graphic outlining his productivity, and he claims that when the game is popular, he is less productive because he is so busy responding to people that he's not working as much.
When I'm releasing cool updates, the game is popular, and lots of people are contacting me, which results in me not having very much time to write code.
Saying the game being popular means he's less productive demonstrates a failure to take accountability and just poor discipline. Just because people are reaching out to you in excess doesn't mean you have to respond to everything. Yet he made it seem like an unchangeable fact that he had to reply to every single person, and that you contacting him would limit the productivity of the game. In fact, he didn't just imply that fans reaching out to him makes the game development slower, he actually directly stated it. In a blog post from October 15th, 2015, he discussed how answering emails was slowing the speed of Yandere Simulator, and instead of taking it on himself to just stop answering emails he didn't need to, he placed the blame on his fans and told them to stop sending, and I quote, stupid emails. Here are his direct words. Please always remember that I receive literally hundreds of emails every day, and that every hour I spend reading emails is an hour I am not working on the game. And when I'm not working on the game's development is not moving forward whatsoever. In other words, when you write a stupid email and waste my time, you are literally delaying the game. Later on, he cringily writes, remember, every time you waste my time by writing an utterly stupid email, a Yandere girl loses her senpai. I think that was his attempt at a joke, but the statement comes across as being livid. He didn't just say stupid email, he said utterly stupid. Yeah, yikes, you can't hide the anger there. This really is quite odd to me because there's a clear inability to problem solve. The problem here is being a popular game developer who receives hundreds of emails a day, and replying to them is getting tiring and incredibly time-consuming. Do you A, acknowledge that this is what happens when you're popular and learn that you can't do everything and only answer certain emails that appear to be important? Or do you B, continue to read every email you get, but just tell your younger fans reaching out to you to stop sending you stuff that is utterly stupid? I mean, option A is something entirely in your control, and option B is something that relies on the actions of other people and also insults them. How would you not just take a step back and stop answering everything? Because if you're getting hundreds of emails a day, you clearly can't manage that. And this email statement, it wasn't just left at a blog post. He decided to make a 2-parter YouTube video about how emails are ruining his productivity. So let's take a look at these because these videos actually did create backlash for him and have since been removed from the channel. He says he wants to be a game developer that responds to his audience.
I want to be a game developer who interacts with his audience. I don't want to be a game developer who just ignores people. that took the time to write me an email. So I've been reading and responding to every single email that I get.
Which is a fair goal, but you don't need to reply to everything to be considered active within your community. And then when he brings up emails wasting his time, he says that once he spent 9 days answering emails.
9 days were spent answering emails.
The sad classical music in the background and the picture he has up for most of the video all come together to create the beautiful, poetic statement, "Woe is me, pity me, feel awful," even though he says otherwise.
I'm not asking for pity. I just want you to understand something. Because I work on the game for 12 hours a day without taking days off, I have no time for my hobbies anymore. I haven't watched an anime in months, and I barely have any time to play video games anymore.
There is no purpose to these creative decisions unless you're trying to evoke sadness and get people to feel sorry for you. Later on in the video, he has a character come up providing potential solutions to his email problems that he shuts down. The point is to sort of basically raise the questions his audience is already going to ask him, so that way he can say no to them in the video before anybody tells him what to do. One potential solution that comes up is the idea of hiring a secretary to answer emails. So that way people can be responded to, but he doesn't have to take his time away from the game. And immediately, he nukes this idea off the face of the earth, saying the first reason why he doesn't want to do it is because he doesn't want to have to babysit the secretary. And he just is generally using unprofessional terminology and says he doesn't want his secretary to be lazy and work too slowly.
I don't want to babysit a secretary for several weeks until they have enough experience to do their job without supervision. I don't want to risk the secretary filtering my emails incorrectly and failing to send me important emails. I don't want to risk the secretary being lazy and going through emails so slowly that I'm better off doing it myself.
Now, first of all, you could put Master f***ing Oogway on a typewriter, and he'd work faster than Yandere Dev. He could be the secretary, and shit would get done faster. Secondly, he just went straight for the jugular on this hypothetical secretary, saying she's gonna be lazy, she's gonna just suck, and she needs to be babysat. It reflects his attitude towards things in general. Glass half empty, or really beyond half empty, glass shattered on the floor. In this video, he really ramps up the tone of condescension towards his audience. He tells people to stop even trying to give him ideas in the rudest way possible.
If you have a suggestion for the game, please don't email me and tell me your idea. 99% of the time I hear somebody suggest a feature for the game, or it's simply dumb.
Ah yes, nothing like telling your supporters that the ideas they're eager to share are probably stupid and worthless. As previously mentioned, in this video he brings up potential solutions his fans will give him and shuts them all down. And he gets really mad at the idea that people are gonna try to help him fix his problem.
Stop. Just stop. Whatever you're about to ask, whatever you're about to suggest, whatever solution you're about to propose, I already hear it 100 times every day, and I've already decided it's a bad idea. Don't even bother.
If you're gonna make a long video to your fans saying, "Woe is me, I'm struggling here because it's hard to make a game for you guys. I am held hostage answering emails," they are of course going to reply back with their suggestions on how you fix your problem. It's a natural and common response to hearing someone vent their problems. Telling someone to stop and that whatever they're gonna say has already been heard 100 times is a statement that demeans individual concerns and makes them feel completely unoriginal, bothersome, and of course unappreciated. Not only did he blame slow development on his fans reaching out to him, he also has acted like the support the game has gotten is a prison. In What's Taking So Long Part 2, he acts like he's being held captive and says that if he stopped working on Yandere Simulator as much, he could take his life back.
To downgrade Yandere Simulator to just being a hobby, so that I can take my life back, I would finally be able to play video games and watch anime again.
And in a video, What's Going On with Yandere Simulator's development, he said the reason the code in his game sucked was because he felt like he had 3 guns pointed at his head. and he visually edits YouTube, Patreon, and this person turning into the ones pointed at his head.
Because I was writing the code as if I had 3 guns pointed at my head and wanted to push out updates as quickly as possible.
The YouTube logo representing his YouTube viewers, Patreon being the people who are donating to him on Patreon, and I believe this is for dissatisfied followers. Not only is it a statement that completely shifts blame away from himself and places it on his audience again, he edited his Patreon supporters into a gun pointed at his head. This is how he viewed his supporters, as some demanding pressure forcing him to work. I mean, you can't even make this up. In no world would I be remotely capable of making a joke as funny as this dude suggesting the people giving him money are actually holding him hostage. Now, these videos were years ago, but they were posted at such a crucial point in time for the popularity and development of this game that it is undeniable they impacted the current state of things, as his condescending attitude towards a good chunk of his own viewers played a large part in driving people away from him, turning scrutiny towards him, tanking faith people had in him, and driving this thing into the ground. And now it's time to talk about Yandere Dev's biggest mistake that tanked the potential of his game, his absolutely abhorrent, disorganized, and inefficient time management. I mean, again, we're here on this video, 2024, Yandere Simulator has 1 out of 10 rivals and has only completed stage 4 out of 8 on the developmental roadmap. Despite his many statements that the game would be released earlier, such as when he said it would come in 2021 or 2022, it isn't here. I mean, clearly, yes, we've established to get to this point, the man has poor time management, but I think we really need to examine how, why, because there are so many different factors that contribute to why he has taken so long to create this game, because at this rate, if you gave him 50 more years, the game still wouldn't be done. Now, we've already established that he wasted a lot of time working on side features instead of the rivals, and the game probably would have been done faster if he didn't get distracted with doing side stuff first, and instead focused on the foundation. Generally, to work efficiently, we've realized that you should create an outline to get the larger areas done first, then build on top of that, make something functional before you decide to start adding in extra features. However, he actually disagrees with this argument. He believes the process of Yandere Simulator is an efficient and even good way of working because he views his game as a puzzle.
I look at Yandere Simulator like an incomplete jigsaw puzzle. It doesn't matter what order the puzzle pieces are put together in. Only thing that matters is that eventually all of the puzzle pieces are put in place. It's true that it's easier to do a jigsaw puzzle if you concentrate on the edge pieces first, and that's exactly why I've decided to prioritize core mechanics like the guidance counselor before prioritizing Osana.
The puzzle analogy is an interesting one. He almost makes this argument sound convincing, yet it's still a poor justification. 10 years later, when you have only the edge pieces and the center of the puzzle is empty, any observer is going to walk by unsure of what the puzzle is even about. They can't see the clear picture. If you care about making progress people can see, the puzzle process is not a good idea. Now, to highlight an absolutely ridiculous example of his convoluted process right from the beginning, in October 2014, way before he was even close to having a first rival be properly developed, he was already spending his time thinking about making DLC and DLC rivals to implement. Another way Yandere Dev has spent his time like garbage is he's put code in the game that he has no intention of using in the final product. His awful coding making the game have poor performance has long been a popular criticism, and because of that, he's gotten a little defensive. He's tried suggesting that the criticisms against his inefficient code are garbage because the code he used in the game didn't mean anything anyway. He said his game was a V-slice, and as a result, it was more so a preview of the product, and as such it didn't need to have polished code that the final game would have.
A V-slice is supposed to allow you to experience every feature of the proposed game. So in the process of finishing the V-slice, I will essentially be programming every feature the game needs and developing the first rival. A lot of code and assets will be placeholder.
He said he gave himself a dysfunctional base to build code off of, and it's taken a while to fix.
It's difficult to make adjustments or add new features to the game at this point in time, because I have to untangle the mess I've made every time I want to change something.
Yet despite this acknowledgement that it was a poor decision and lost him time, he still gets mad at others for calling it out. Because he's gotten distracted on really small side details, and he's put code in this game that wouldn't even matter later on, his priorities have been terrible. His poor prioritization wasn't just a problem with the coding process of Yandere Simulator, it was also something that seeped into all areas of his life. See, according to his own words, he's been dissatisfied with how long Yandere Simulator has taken to develop, saying that looking back on his late 20s would leave him feeling hollow because of how much it ate away at his life.
Yandere Simulator will probably not be finished until 2019. I'm going to be over 30 years old when that happens. I'm going to look back at my late 20s, and I'm just going to see a giant hole where nothing happened except for Yandere Simulator. It's really depressing, so I try not to think about it.
And he said that he couldn't even attend weddings in his life because he just couldn't take a break from making the game.
I've been asked to do interviews, invited to podcasts, invited to parties, invited to weddings, and always declined because I didn't want to do anything that would take my time away from Yandere Sim.
Very sad, very tragic, but of course, he could take many breaks to stream for ungodly amounts of time, which is something he does to this day. He still wastes his time streaming a lot. To really break this down, the music choice being sad, the tone he uses, combined with the fact that he suggested other people are why this game takes so long, and that his late 20s are complete garbage because of how long he has to work on this game, the message he's sending is, you should feel guilty for putting me through this. I am sacrificing everything for this project, which is pretty pathetic because he very clearly did have free time in his life, and his poor time management is entirely his responsibility. In his video, What's Taking So Long, he includes 2 graphs to describe what impacts his productivity and how he divides his time, and shows the exact percentage breakdown for how much time he spends. Literally 60% of it is used for communicating with people in some shape or form, whether that be sending out updates on videos or directly talking to people involved in the project. Only 20% is reserved for adding new features to the game. So this means that 80% of his time working on Yandere Simulator is not actually coding new things into the game. And he said that when problems come up in his real life that take him away from the game development, it's a 20% time loss. So he has to take that 20% out of this graph somewhere. And you guys are never gonna guess where he took the 20% from. Can you guess where he took the 20% from? Take a guess. That's correct! When Yandere Dev had to deal with IRL stuff, he stuck his 20% time loss right in that 20% chunk of adding new features.
When personal problems pop up and take my focus away from Yandere Simulator, I lose the time that I otherwise would have spent developing the game.
He decides to halt all code-related progress instead of just reducing communication to 6% in each category. Why prioritize communicating with people and making videos for the game instead of actually making the game when the only reason people want to communicate with you or watch your videos is for the progress and completion of the game? It doesn't make sense. There are tons of easy solutions he could have taken to just focus on the game more if he held himself accountable and acknowledged that his process was dysfunctional. It begs the question, did he actually want to develop a game, or did he want to be a game developer? Was his priority creating a finished game for people to play, or was he interested in perpetually being a game developer people follow and show interest in? I mean, what other conclusion are people supposed to reach after 10 years when the game is in such a poorly developed state? Either he is completely incompetent but a gold medalist in mental gymnastics, or maybe his real priority of these past few years haven't been the game at all, and instead, there's one true priority here that all of his actions support, which is just a matter of how relevant he personally is, how much people like him. For years, people have been saying that Yandere Dev doesn't care about his game and that he cares about one true thing, money. And lots of people have been arguing that the main reason he won't hurry up and finish the game is because he's a scammer and wants people's Patreon money. Which, I mean, who's to say? I mean, he certainly is receiving an ongoing payment despite the game not being done. So there is a motive there, but I really think that money is not the main reason why he's delayed the progress of this game so much. He knows that once the game is done, people will stop paying attention to him. It is not entirely about money, but rather personal relevancy. And you would almost think that Yandere Dev wanted to be a streamer or content creator instead of someone who makes games. The videos on his channel titled Yandere Dev are about Yandere Simulator, yes, but even in a lot of these, what's the focus? The features of the game and complications with coding, or the problems plaguing the developer's life? In his division of time for working on things related to Yandere Simulator, over 50% of it is dedicated to his communications outside the game or interacting with the community. Only a small chunk of it is actual hands-on game development. He has wasted countless hours streaming, and continues to waste countless hours streaming, when he said the game is his top priority. In his own words, he has expressed a concern he had about Yandere Simulator, saying that the game needs to be relevant, and the way he can do that is by producing constant updates.
The game is only alive for as long as people are interested in it. If people lose interest in the game, it's dead. If I release frequent updates, people will remain interested in the game. If I release updates slowly, people will lose interest in the game.
If the updates are too slow, it's no good. And if the game is done, it's no good. And also he said that he himself does not want to be forgotten.
All of my fans would hate me. Someone else would develop a Yandere-themed game to take the place of my game. I would fade from memory, and all of the work I've done over the past 3 years would be for nothing.
He hasn't made this a secret. This is all about how people see him and his own personal relevancy. When Yandere Simulator exploded in popularity, it's clear he wanted to turn the newfound attention on his game towards himself. But now he has to cling to this game as a lifeline for his own relevancy. In his world, where relevancy is currency, he is terrified of going broke, and the safest thing he feels to do is ride out the dying leftovers of this game, because all other attempts to build a name for himself have failed. He needed a reason for people to pay attention to him. And when you've made a game that people care about, they will tune into your progress updates and whatever you say on the matter. So the longer you can keep that going, the more people will pay attention to you. So it's never been about the game. It's always been about him. To bring it back to the present, again, there is 1 out of 10 rivals in the game. Yet there's tons of other side features no one asked for implemented. It's clear the game will never be done. He still has poor time management, and based on recent information that surfaced and his now deleted apology posted at the very start of 2024, his creepiness has reached the point of no return. He won't ever be able to gather enough public support again to have a proper crowdfunding campaign and actually get this thing done. And it would be tricky for someone else to pick this game up, given the awful legacy it has attached to it. He wanted nothing more for people to like him, yet through his completely harsh, condescending comments and deplorable behavior, most view him as a dishonest, creepy, harsh individual to be avoided. His wish of not being forgotten is granted to a degree. The internet won't ever forget the essence of Yandere Dev. People won't forget the problematic behavior, complete failure of his project, and the memes that came out of it. But what does it mean to be remembered, to not be forgotten? Is it to remember on paper that you exist? Or is it to be remembered in the way that you wished to be remembered? His behavior over time highlighted very few positives, and the things that will last in people's memories are the actions he's done. With the passage of time, minor details about who he is, what he likes, minor personality traits will fade into the background, with only the really dark staying in the public's mind. Is this what it means to be remembered? And if it is it better off than being forgotten? But one thing is certain, this game has no future, but it was interesting to watch all of the development unfold. And it showed that if given enough time and money, if you're stubborn with poor time management, your project will go nowhere. And of course, it's taught all of us that it's probably not a good idea to support creepy game developers with a history of degenerate behavior. But yeah, thanks for sticking around to this point in the video. If you like what you see, you can always like and subscribe. And if you want another way to support the content, I do have channel memberships where you can join and get access to perks. And if you want to see the stuff I do outside of this channel, I also have social media and a second channel. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.